Martin Baker Aircraft Co. Limited is a British manufacturer of ejection seats and safety-related equipment for aviation. The company's origins were originally as an aircraft manufacturer before becoming a pioneer in the field of ejection seats. The company's headquarters are in Higher Denham, Buckinghamshire, England, with other sites in France, Italy and the United States. Martin Baker supplies ejection seats for 93 air forces worldwide. Martin Baker seats have been fitted into over 200 fixed-wing and rotary types, with the most recent being the Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II program. Martin Baker claimed in 2016 that since the first live ejection test in 1946, a total of 7,514 lives have been saved by the company's ejection seats. Martin Baker also manufactures what it calls crashworthy seats for helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft. As of 2012, over 20,000 crashworthy seats have been delivered. The Martin Baker Company continues as a family-run business, run by the two sons of the late Sir James Martin. History. Martin's Aircraft Works was founded as an aircraft manufacturer in 1934 by later Sir James Martin. The factory was set up in the late 1920s, where 4 aircraft prototypes were designed and built: the MB-1, MB-2, MB-3 and MB-5. During the design and testing of the MB-1 aircraft, James Martin and Captain Valentine Baker started their friendship and partnership with Martin Baker Aircraft Company Limited being established. Martin and Baker designed an unconventional two-seat, low-wing monoplane design in the early 1930s as the MB-1. This was powered by a de Havilland Gypsy engine mounted in the fuselage behind the seats and driving a fixed-pitch propeller through her shaft running horizontally between the pilot and passenger. The project was abandoned due to financial constraints. Although the fuselage and engine installation had been completed, Martin Baker also constructed an autogyro designed by Raoul Hafner. Their first complete aircraft project was later tested by Captain Baker at Heston Aerodrome. In 1935, Martin and Baker designed and flew their Martin Baker MB-1, a two-seat light touring aircraft. Their first military design was the Martin Baker MB-2, a Napier Dagger-powered fighter that flew in 1938. It was a private venture to meet Air Ministry Specification F-534s for a fighter for service in the tropics. The MB-2 was tested, but neither it nor other designs to F-534s were adopted. Martin Baker MB-3, 1942, a 6-cannon fighter design, powered by a Napier Sabre. Baker was killed in a crash while testing the prototype. Martin Baker MB-4, 1943, a Rolls-Royce Griffin engine fighter, cancelled on the drawing board. The Martin Baker MB-5, which first flew in 1944, had started out as the second MB-3 prototype but was extensively redesigned with a tubular steel fuselage. It used the Griffin engine driving contra-rotating propellers. Martin Baker MB-6, 1945, a Second World War jet fighter project with a swing-arm, 0/0th spring-loaded ejection seat. Martin Baker MB-7, 1946, Black Bess, a post-war interceptor, high-speed test aircraft concept. Small flying models were made, but the concept was cancelled in 1947. Martin Baker manufactured aircraft components, including armored seats for Supermarine Spitfires, throughout the Second World War. In 1944, the company was approached by the Ministry of Aircraft Production to investigate ejection systems enabling pilots to bail out safely from high-speed fighter aircraft. Ejection seats. Martin Baker investigated ejection seats from 1934 onwards, several years before Germany and Sweden proposed similar systems in 1938. The company concluded that an explosive-powered ejection seat was the best solution. In particular, Baker's death in 1942 during a test flight of the MB-3 affected Martin so much that pilot safety became his primary focus and led to the later reorganization of the company to focus primarily on ejection seats. In 1944, James Martin was asked by the Ministry of Aircraft Production to develop methods for fighter pilots to escape their aircraft. Martin decided that the best method involved ejection of the seat with the occupant sitting in it, aided by an explosive charge. After ejection, the pilot would separate from the seat and open his parachute by pulling a ripcord in the usual way. At that time there was little information on how much upward thrust the human body could withstand. Data relating to G-forces in catapult launching of aircraft involved horizontal thrust and was therefore inapplicable to the new problem. Tests would have to be conducted to find out how much upward G-force a person could tolerate. These were done by shooting a seat up a near vertical path, loading the seat to represent the weight of the occupant, and measuring the accelerations involved. A 5-meter, 16-foot test rig was built in the form of a tripod, one of the legs being in the form of guide rails. The seat was propelled up the guide rails by a gun, consisting of 2 telescopic tubes energized by an explosive cartridge. The guide rails were provided with ratchet stops every 75 millimeters, 3 inches, so that the seat was automatically arrested at the top of its travel. Studies were conducted to find the limits of upward acceleration that the human body could stand. The first dummy shot with the seat loaded to 200 pounds was made on the 20th of January 1945. And 4 days later one of the company's experimental fitters, Bernard Lynch, undertook the first live ride, being shot up the rig to a height of 4 feet 8 inches. In 3 further tests, the power of the cartridge was progressively increased until a height of 10 feet was reached, at which stage Lynch reported the onset of considerable physical discomfort. The first seat was successfully live tested by Lynch on the 24th of July 1946, who ejected from a Gloucester Meteor traveling at 320 miles per hour, 510 kilometers per hour, IAS at 8,000 feet, 2,400 meters, over Chalgrove Airfield in Oxfordshire. The first use of an ejection seat in a practical application by a British pilot involved the Armstrong Whitworth AW-52 flying wing experimental aircraft in May 1949. Martin Baker was a pioneer in expanding the operational envelope of the ejection seat to enable it to be used at low altitudes and airspeeds, leading eventually to a 0-0 capability. Martin Baker also sponsors an ejection tie club, producing a tie, patch, certificate, tie-pin and membership card for those whose lives have been saved by a Martin Baker ejection seat. As of 2012, there are now over 5,800 registered members of the club since it was founded in 1957. Operations. The Martin Baker Company maintains its own airfield, Chalgrove Airfield, in Oxfordshire for operational testing of ejection seats. A second airfield, the former RAF Langford Lodge near Crumlin in County Antrim, is also used for testing, and houses a 6,200 feet, 1,900 meters, high-speed rocket sled track, 2 Gloucester Meteor T-7 aircraft, WL-419 and WA-638. remain in service with the company as flying test beds. Another Meteor, WA-634, used in early development of ejection seats, is retained at the RAF Museum at RAF Cosford. Notes. Bibliography. Official website. Electronic library. See Propulsion Systems Contribution to Success of Aircrew Emergency Escape Systems. PDF file. Pay site. Exit in Extremis, a 1948 flight article. At low altitudes each second is vital. 150 feet. 600 miles per hour. A 1954 flight advertisement for Martin Baker ejection seats. Seaton Aircraft, 930 lives saved. A 1965 flight advertisement for the Martin Baker Mk. 6HA00 ejection seat is fitted in the Hawker Siddeley Kestrel. VTOL, a 1966 flight advertisement for Martin Baker Zero Speed Zero Altitude 00 ejection seats.